Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to our channel. Okay, so today we're building a 400 amp supply. Mr. X is in from Iowa. Him and his beautiful young lady, and we're going to go ahead and try to get some more stuff cut and taken care of for this. Good evening, Bill. So, like I said, we're live on both platforms, TikTok as well as here on YouTube. We do have a new internet feed, so that should help out with any of the lags and some of the stuff like that we've had. Hello, Anthony. How are you doing, buddy? You feeling any better? So, get this snapped into place. And this is going to be kind of a tight fit. There we go. So that's going to be the face of our supply, guys. Since, like I said, since we've got everything set up on two platforms, we've got cameras on different angles. So, but anyways, so we finally got this all cut out. We had a few hiccups. Unfortunately, my body saw that I normally use, it died on me on the bench. The customer actually went to town to try to pick one up. Wasn't able to get one. Thankfully, I had a spare out in the garage, even though it was air. Then we had another hiccup where the the air compressor, it kicked out on us. So I had to go up into the attic to hit the overload on that. Got that taken care of and able to get the meter cut out finally. So a lot of hiccups just with equipment. You know, the saw, what do you expect? I mean, it was a cheap one when I bought it. So thankfully I had a good air saw, and I didn't think the air compressor was going to be able to keep up with it. So yeah, I figured you'd like that, Bruce. I think that turned out pretty wild. Like I said, I'm happy with it anyways. The customer actually picked out the pattern and had that printed off. So like I said, I really like the way it turned out. His cabinet, he's actually going to send that back and have it restripped and repowder coated, because it was supposed to be more of a gold than the implement yellow that it came in at. But because of how this is going to be set up, he's only going to take a couple of screws out, and he'll be able to slide the whole unit apart and be able to send the case in. So we're going to set this off to the side for right now. Like I said, I've done a lot of the preliminary work. Well, thank you. Get low. So anyways, like I said, it's been quite a fiasco to actually put this thing together. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, we're not dealing with standard aluminum here. We're actually dealing with all steel plates. So the steel plates really take a lot of physical time to do because of, well, it's steel. It doesn't cut the same. So we're going to go ahead and finish putting in the last of a couple of little screws here we took out the other day. I wanted to take this off so that I had a easier time in order to go ahead and modify the physical top plate that this all sets on. But because of the two crimped in nuts, that was not an option. So gonna finish getting these put in, and then we'll worry about the rest of it here. Now it's crazy because it's 46 degrees here in Indiana right now, which is killing me. At least it was earlier. And here in the studio, it's actually pretty daggone warm. So But yeah, guys, like I said, I'm hoping since we went to the cable modem, like I said, I'm hoping that cures a lot of the issues that we've been having again with the internet and some of the choppy feeds that we've had in the past. Like I said, it's been very frustrating. Verizon really let me down, which we're actually going to call them on Monday and get that canceled. So I kept the service for a couple more days just to make sure that everything went off without a hitch before we do away with the internet. So the old internet, that is. So I am not going to use the original nuts that they had up here. I'm actually going to use some that's got the K-locks on them. I think that's going to make my life a lot easier. 87 in North Florida. Yeah, well, it was like 82 yesterday. I mean, Mother Nature cannot make up her mind for anything in regards to what our temperature is going to be. Let's see. Yeah, well, I actually thought about going to Starlink, Bill, to be honest with you. But for my area, Starlink had a much lower rating than Xfinity did. So we went with the Xfinity instead of Starlink. Price was very comparable for the service. Xfinity was slightly cheaper. But after a while, you get frustrated enough that you don't really care about price. There we go. Let's see. I'm just trying to keep with the comments on both sides to see what's going on. No, no, boss man, not done yet, buddy. Like I said, cranking out steel is a huge difference than working with aluminum. Plus, I mean, we spent the first 2 hours that he was here Friday night. We spent going through the layout to see what kind of snags we were going to run into. He originally wanted to try to make this a 500 amp, and with the size of the cabinet that it is and the overall dimensions, it just really wasn't feasible. So if we'd had a little more room to play with, yeah, would have probably been okay. This cabinet originally started out as an old Heath kit that has now been modified and turned into a power supply. So, it's on its second life cycle. Yeah, probably this fall on that, Donnie. I think it's Donnie. Anyways, boss man. But yeah, probably this fall I'll be available for something like that. You know, like I said, I'm trying not to take too much more in. Hey, I appreciate that. I know I like my workbench too, even though it's a little over full for everything. I wish my workbench was just a little bit larger, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, so I'll show you guys over here since it's already pointing that direction. So this is our positive and negative lugs. So we've got some nice big beefy 3/8 stainless steel lugs coming out of the back for him to be able to hook up everything. And our power cord. Show you guys here too. So really like these things, man. You know, I've been using the same connector for a while. I've got 5/16 and 3/8 available. You know, that I've been using for different size power supplies. One of the big beefy lugs, which, you know, being 400 amps, he could have actually went with either one since they're stainless, but that's what he wanted, so that's what we put on there. Let's see. Hello, John. Yeah, we'll send you an invite. We'll get somebody in there, maybe. I don't know if he's up to talking yet or not. Oh, not much, buddy. Hopefully you're feeling better than what you was the other day. Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, I've still got to cut the main power wires on this. So, Carlos, I appreciate it, Carlos. My first time visiting. What type of stuff do I do? Okay, well, what I do is radio communications. Hello, Noisy Bill. I build amplifiers, power supplies, a few off-the-wall products from time to time. For example, you see the Lichtenberg or fractal burning machine that I built for my brother actually out in Colorado. So, you know, once in a while I'll take in a few odd and end projects and put those to work in here as well. So, yeah, I know you're still having problems with your leg, boss man. Hopefully you get to going better anyways this summer. Change of plans, please. Here's charger case. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of unusual because we've got our DC side. It's going to be down here. All of the positive wires are actually going to drop through the top of the cabinet down into the bottom, and then we're going to conform and go over here to our main lug here. As far as our negative, the negative is actually going to come up through our shunt. Gotta get that in camera both sides. And, you know, I've just got this on there just for test purposes. But essentially, it's going to come up through this one hole right here, and all of our grounds are going to be hooked right through this ground hole here. So, like I said, very, very narrow amount of room to work with on this project. So, my big thing is I've got to make sure that I've got enough power wire to go from point A to point B on everything. So that's what we're going to try to figure out. on our lengths. So I figure if I wrap it on the outside, that should give me a few extra inches that I can trim off a little later. This case, this is the one that the customer actually provided me. So no, I do not have any like this. You know, I've got some of my custom supplies that are the 19-inch rack mount. But no, this is. Well, actually, you've seen it. You've seen this cabinet. You've seen it down at Sparta, Tennessee. So I'll set this off to the side since that's just the guts. But we'll have to flip it around for the guys on YouTube. But I don't know if I can swing the camera around that much or not. So this is what the finished product on the outside is going to look like, guys, when we get it all put together. I'm sorry, what was that, Anthony? I got you kind of down low on the volume at the moment.
Nah, you're fine.
Kick that AC off. No, actually, it's quite warm here in the shop, so.
That's crazy. It's like 47 degrees here.
Well, and that's just it. It was down to 46 here outside. And, you know, the customer just left probably about an hour ago. And, you know, they wanted to check out some of the sites. We've got Covered Bridge that, you know, she wanted to go see. And, well, you know, they've been here, they've been here a good portion of the day. So I think they're just going to go back to the motel and relax. Like I said, you know, they're all the way from Iowa, you know, and drove down to see us. You know, I've got another gentleman next weekend that's coming from Illinois. Shouldn't be more than an hour's project for his. But yeah, I mean, I get people from, you know, I get people from time to time all over that'll drive up. Sometimes from, you know, I've got some people that came up here a couple of years ago from Missouri. You know, what is that? Kentucky, which that's not that's not very far. Some from Virginia that'll pop in from time to time. So, you know, it's just a interesting time. You know, I don't always take, so to speak, you know, customers that come long ways for, you know, for weight, because sometimes it takes more than a weekend to do a project. So, you know, and working a regular full-time job, I can't always just drop what I'm doing at work and, you know, take care of people here in the studio as well. I'd like to. All right. So that should give me more than enough on the positive leads. Like I said, I know I'm going to have to do a little trim here and there to get everything to fit just so. But all right. because I've already figured out how these have got to lay in there. But I've also got to solder the negative cables in first before I overlap for the positives, because the positive wires have actually got to go up kind of like this. And yeah, trying to get it to where both cameras can see the same thing. It's kind of difficult. Anyways, on the side of the module here. So we've actually got to come up and then drop back down in order to get enough of the right kind of fold for everything to go through the bottom of the cabinet and lay like it needs to be. So, and what's really bad is the fact that I can't really go above the top of the cabinet itself here because I'm pretty much at my max height. But I should be able to go ahead and put my negative in, bring it over, and do my drop down. So the negative side is going to be fairly short, which is really not going to matter because it's still, it's still, it's still actually the same length. You don't have to have 40 feet of ground and then 40 feet of red, just for an example. All your grounds can be, as long as they're, systematically close to the same length. As far as all your negatives and all your grounds, it doesn't really matter because you don't know what's going to happen back here as far as what lengths anybody's going to use. So, hello, Rainmaker. Okay. Hello, Chad. Awesome. Glad to hear the Tramp's still running great. Okay.
I gotta charge my phone. I'll holler at you later.
All right, buddy. You take care. Have a good evening.
You too.
Well, hello, Truck. I think that's Truck anyways in there. Truck CB Sales. Mr. Impossible, good evening. See, I got a message from somebody, but I don't know who. Okay. All right. Just got to get kind of an idea here before we start soldering. Like I said, I know how my positive lead has to run, but the negative is a whole different story. I'm going to go ahead and plug my big iron in. Okay, so I should be fine to do that. Okay. Get some of this stuff out of our work way. Yeah, I know the customer's definitely excited on this little project, and like so, I kind of enjoy doing some odd stuff once in a while. Let's see, talking with a friend. Let's see. As far as on the tube amplifiers, once in a while I will take like a sweep tube in for repair. Not very often, but as far as on tube type stuff, that is something I would probably recommend going to another builder. We have got several guys that are extraordinarily good. If you're looking at going steel tube or something like that. But I try to stay out of that world. I just don't really have a big enough shop, in relationship to doing, tube amps and stuff. Nor do I have the equipment. I got rid of most of the equipment to do tube stuff about 20 years ago. I did that for a couple of different reasons, and I never really got into the whole steel tubes. I know a little bit about them. On occasions, my buddy Bruce, cons me into working on, some of his glass amps. So, but I try to stay away from a lot of that stuff. Like I said, I just don't have enough of the right equipment. Like I said, something like an SB220 or something like that. On occasions, I'll mess around with, but I prefer to stick with just the mono band on something like that. Like I said, it's just not something I do every day. So, we've got Mountaintop Electronics. He is a super, super good guy, very reasonably priced. As far as that goes, Truck's got some different amplifiers as far as if you're looking for something like today, so to speak. Truck would be a good one to go see, even though he doesn't build them. But if you want to get it direct from the builder, we've also got Luke Miller, from BBI. I don't know what kind of an insane wait list you would have on something like that from him. You know, it's the only reason why I'm mentioning some of these other ones first. Let's see. Yeah, and I try to stay away from the audio equipment. Again, I know a little bit about it, but there are a lot of guys that is their specialty. So, you know, and I try to, like I said, I try to stay, you know, just try to stay with, you know, the transistorized and then the power supplies. You know, sometimes, you know, like the one-off stuff, like what we're doing here. You know, again, it's one of those where I've just got so much on my plate, especially where I work a full-time job as well as here in the studio. So, you know, it's just really difficult. That's the reason why most of the stuff, when people ask me about doing radio repair, you know, I quit doing radio repairs about 3 years ago. Not that I can't do it. It's the fact that, you know, it's the time restraints that I deal with. So, and let's go ahead. I want to check something here real quick. Oh, I've got an idea what size connector I need, because if so, I can go ahead and get this one all put together. That. Yeah, I think we're going to go with the smaller of the two. I have no idea who that was. We're not answering 1-800 numbers either today. Okay. Okay, so we'll do a 70 and then drop down to a 50. Yeah, I've got a smaller version of this somewhere, but I don't remember if it is in my locker out in the garage. So I think that's where I put it at last. Actually, let's do one more thing. Because I know the positive wire, that's going to be the easy one. I want to cut just a little bit off of those. Not a lot, just a little bit. Well, thank you, Chad. Yeah, like I said, the customer, he's seen some of the different designs and stuff that I'd had. And he, like I said, he actually picked that one out himself as far as on the display. And, brought me the, matter of fact, he even brought me a spare. Just in case we had a, oopsie. So we got that put on there. But thankfully, whatever, whoever he had do the vinyl, actually had a really good vinyl. I didn't have any problems with it. Yeah, I've had a bunch of static today on the radio, but I've not had any actual decent skip or even some of the locals. I haven't even had any of them come in. Which that's kind of unusual. So all I've heard on the radio today has just been static. Poor little silicone mat's going to have to get replaced here for too much longer as well. this out of the way. I'm gonna start saving myself some aggravation, start pulling some of this stuff apart. AC side's gonna be easiest to do. Yeah, it just seems asinine being here in the shop and knowing that it's like almost 80 freaking degrees and 46 outside. Well, thank you for the gift. I appreciate it. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Rose. Oh, Papaw. Okay, MX Papaw. Yes, it has been a while. I didn't see that part after that. These are the 1200s. Yeah, he wanted to go with something that he knew was pretty well tried and true, and the SB 1200s have been very reliable. The 1400s, I haven't had any call for any of those, so it's been forever and a day. I would actually have to. I'm not even sure which ones anybody's using on the 1400s anymore. Which this is a situation where I could have used them. It would have given me a slight amount more room to play with as far as a whole. Especially in this circumstance. Maybe if I'm lucky, I'll have a long time watcher or something like that. Maybe it'll send me one and I can play with it, see what I think of them. Like I said, I haven't had any call, and I've got quite a few of the SB1200s that I have in stock. Which most of the stuff that I do, generally everybody needs it set up on 110 volts. So that's the main reason why I've not really dove into the other ones, because the other ones I know they have to be ran specifically on 220. And again, this is one that will be on 220. I know I'm going to have to cut some off of that positive wire, but I just want to get everything finessed in there and then do my last little trim. You can cut off easy, then you can add back onto the wires. Hello, Donald. Barb, good evening. Mr. Carlock, good evening time, sir. Hopefully you're enjoying the weather. It's been anything but normal here. Well, we can give you all the rain up here, or most of it. Yeah, it probably would, but it also depends on how big of an amplifier you're running on your on your RCI. Yes, it would be overkill, but you wouldn't have to worry about amperage. That's for sure. If you're running something like a standard 2-pill or something like that, it would be more than adequate. However, if the new transistors ever make it to the market, I wished I at least had an idea as far as amperage, amperage and things like that. Because I mean, that's still all to be determined, but eventually we'll all figure it out and go on from there. Oh, okay. And the Connex 4600. Yeah, I put it on the workbench, tuned it up, made sure everything was working good before I took it to the show. So, I've had that sitting on the shelf for about 4 or 5 years, and I don't know. I'm just not one for running the amplifier inside the radio as far as for myself. That was back before. I mean, we kind of started having the 100-watt radios at the time, but also at the same time, it's just not something that's been normal. So and now we've got, not just 100-watt radios, but we've got, 200, 300. The power just keeps going up and up and up. And, it kind of makes it difficult to know what to pre-build for even sticking on the shelf. It really does. Texas Star WC Pinball. I am not familiar at all with that one. Not familiar at all with the WC Pinball. Probably a Superstar 550. Yeah, going back and forth between the two. So wire's always been short. Yeah. So what are you talking about, Mr. Baldy, on a Superstar 550? Oh, okay. I have never seen one of those ever walk in the shop. The 16-pill 2290s. Yeah, I have never seen one of those actually come through the doorway. Got a couple little hairs that are sticking out, but that's not going to be a problem. Yeah, here's where I really wished I had my small one. Good evening, Brad. Viking 3's biggest TS ever. Yeah, the Viking. Yeah, the Viking 32. Yeah, I've seen one of those around here. Let's see here. It's from my friend. Tower installed. Need to assemble what was on the side of the Moonraker. That should do you. I'll tell you what. I've talked a million miles on a Moonraker. Jeez, have I talked? I miss those days. Where is it in? Looking for all my scrap pieces here. Good old AI trying to give you pointers. Can't remember the last time I filled my little hand torch, so make sure it's ready to go before we do all this. Since this one has an open face, it'll be real easy to actually get the solder down in there versus drilling a little hole and all that good fun stuff. Let that cool. I'm going to grab some heat shrink for that here in a second. Make it look pretty, and we're not going to have any issues. Good evening time, Spanky. 406 Empty Mama. Hello? All right. What am I building today? Well, I am building a 400 amp low voltage power supply. Customer had me preset these at 14.8 volts. It's a little higher than what I personally like to run them at, but that's what his specifications for his use is. So looking for my small marker. I'd actually like to put that on there. I do apologize if you've missed out on some of it. I do have the starting of this project on YouTube, and it's on my YouTube Live. If you'd like to see the beginning portion of this is kind of the intermediate. And either late tonight, possibly in the morning, we'll get this thing finished up. So I have to have this finished tomorrow because he's got to leave out. We've also got a 21-foot jumper to make for him as well for his mobile. Mr. Smith, good evening. Yeah, I actually had a PDL too. That was my first set of beams. The PDL worked really good. Now, knowing what I know today versus back then, I probably would have taken a couple of different antennas and actually melded with the PDL2. So the PDL2 is actually it's kind of a combination of a cubicle quad and a Yagi. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. If that would have been a 4-element version or 4 elements on that, that would have been a phenomenal antenna. Oh, okay. Well, good evening time. I didn't know we had spoke before. I said, we've just got 2 platforms that we're talking back and forth with. So some of it doesn't make sense. It's because we're on the other platform as well talking. So yeah, we're gonna have to probably go up. It's all right. I think I can make that one work. For the time being, I know I'm done with the big iron. So we've already hydraulically crimped and soldered the negative wire. So I know we shouldn't have any issues whatsoever with it. I don't think you can get much better as far as a physical connection for DC. Yes, actually, I do. That's what it might be hard to see at the moment. There is a orange wire, and that's what this is going to be for. Once we get everything set in place, we'll actually unitize all these together with load sharing as well. I know people have told me that they've done without them and they've never had any issues. Since I know it's there, it would always be stuck in the back of my mind, so I always try to use it. If you had the yellow robin, that one was the 40 channel. The green one was the 23 channel. So it seems like I've had a lot more interaction. So I think the new connection has made a difference. Because I know that different things have popped in and out where I've not had service. So I don't know whether or not my live feed continued or not. And I'm actually going by some marks that are already on the board from where the customer had originally bought a module to make sure that what he was seeing was going to work. So we went ahead and modified his module. He bought 3 more off of me, and we're going to go ahead and get those, get these actually set in place, and then start dropping in some of the wiring itself. HS TNS models. Yes, that's what this is. Okay. Slides better if it's not on the silicone. So one's a little long and one's a little short. gold strap. Now, normally on a power supply like this, usually I would go ahead and pre-drill and do a mount as far as the little tab to go ahead and help stabilize and hold this. But since the customer's physically here and it's going to ride in the back of his vehicle all the way home, we're not going to go to some of the extremes that we would normally for shipping purposes. So, we are going to just, we're actually just going to use the one band clamp to clamp everything down. Okay, I thought it was the right size. We need to go up. Looks like it. Okay. Because I'm not going to use the nuts that he provided with the uprights, because he put the uprights in for me. So it looks like it's an 832 instead of 632. So we'll change that out, take care of that, because I personally prefer the K-Locks that's got the built-in star washer. And we'll go one step further. Let's see. Binding posts you're going to use in the RCA or in the RCI. Some put some stuff. It's a tree. Well, that's no good. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case with this gentleman. He seems to be very, very particular. So I don't think I'm going to have to worry quite so much on that. It's kind of unique in the fact that the way this is going to set up, which I've done some unusual power supplies in the past, for different customers. I did one for my buddy Carl out in Texas, who has since then retired from working on radios and stuff like that. But I built one in a really nice stainless steel cabinet for him. Did another one in another unusual configuration for my buddy Mr. Clean over in where is that? I'll think here in a minute. Over in Ohio. Get these all laying there after we start getting everything assembled here. No, Mr. Clean from Ohio. He is in Cincinnati, Ohio. He used to run around with the Buckeye Bully and Pac-Man back in the day. I think that's going to work. All right, Gary. I was thinking it was you, but I wasn't sure. Hello, Dallas. Good to see you popping in there. All right, let me grab some ferrite because I want to put some ferrite on this. I know that we're going to have to make an alteration to this as well. So I may have to rethink how things are actually set in here. In order to go ahead and get everything the way we need it. So bear with me here. I'm going to grab the ferrite and then we're going to figure out some other stuff here. There. Yeah, because these modules still want to slip a little bit, so we're going to figure out another method to this. By the way, thank you guys all for popping in here, whether you are on YouTube or on TikTok. I do appreciate each and every one of you on both platforms. This front one has a little bit of a brace that it has to kind of conform around as it drops into place. So that's the reason why this one takes me a little longer to run the cables in and out of. Okay. Good evening, David. Good evening, Jenna. Eduardo, good evening. Okay. This kind of gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what it's starting to appear like on the inside. And so we've got to take all of our main cables. We've still got to go ahead and get those laced in there and get those ran back here to a positive lead on the back side of this. Those of you that see the back side here on YouTube, now be able to see it on TikTok. All right, so since I know I've got a little bit of movement, like I said, that's not good. So we may have to go a different route here. If that's the case, no big deal. You can easily go back and make some changes here. Because I'm not going to let that go the way it is. But that's an easy fix. And then our AC is going to be on this side, and we're actually going to cascade it down into the middle and between the four supplies. Now, the nice thing is, since I use blue Loctite, I can actually get this daggone thing apart. We're only going to take the one side loose because the other side we can just lay it kind of out of the way as we go along. Before we move the supplies out of the way, I'm going to make a little mark, move those out of the way, just grab a line, set them back down on there, and then mark where each hole has to be. Oh, you switched over from TikTok. Yeah, it's a little different angle, isn't it? You're able to see different, different point of view. Yeah, you're able to see more of my fat belly. So, for those of you that are new to my channel, whether it be on TikTok or here on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. It does help with our views. Also, now that I hopefully have the internet situation taken care of, I am going to be trying to get more stuff put onto my Patreon page as well. For those of you that may be interested. See the mark? Probably not. I think it's there. Now I can see it. Yeah, we've got too much work done to, start going backwards. So we'll make the necessary changes that we need as we're going along here. So. Yeah, if this was a standard cabinet, I would just go ahead and, figure out my dimensions, and I would have went ahead and had everything already spot drilled and everything like that. We're kind of going off of the customer's original design that he was thinking. So sometimes you gotta improvise, adapt, and overcome. Well, yeah, Alex, it definitely will give you plenty of amperage there for your car. 400 amps. You should be able to rock a pretty good station, car audio station off of that. I remember back in the day, whenever I built car audio, the little Z24 that I had, yeah, you definitely didn't want to run without the spare batteries. Not in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, a six pack of Faraday capacitors. Yes, that would work as a good buffer. That's what my Garageophonics used to use, was an ATX power supply. So. Okay, so that one's got the double plate. That ought to be fun. So let's do this a little different. I've got a small little vacuum, but I'd have to go in the house and put it on charge and all that other stuff to vacuum that up. So we're going to just pick up as much as we can, and then just take the air gun and give it a quick blow off. This would be the safest method for the paint. Now that I'm through cutting, I can actually turn my air pressure down too. Yeah, I generally have my air compressor set at about 30 pounds for the workbench, which is sufficient for what I'm doing. I can turn it up. Let's see. System makes 200 amps. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, well, I did that, and I also used to build the custom enclosures. Um, some of them we did the wild stuff where we actually did the weird shapes on the inside where the cones and stuff are. With the fiberglass, work that out and paint them. I didn't get into doing any of the graphic stuff on there, but I wouldn't, I didn't mind painting them or two tones or something like that. But yeah, I didn't get real crazy and radical with the paint because I could lay paint good, but I was never an artist as far as to be able to do the skulls and stuff like that some of these guys would airbrush in. I moved my trash can here earlier today, and it's still bugging me. Live is being discovered. Okay, well that's good. Yes, it was. Some of the trucks were a little on the difficult side too. Or I shouldn't say trucks. Yeah, I mean the trucks, but what was it? God, I'm trying to remember some of the oddballs that people would want, like modifying your back, one of your back, trim panels and stuff, where spare tires went in on the side. we were talking about car audio instead of power supplies, but there again, you can use the power supply to power just about anything that's, rated for your 12-volt vehicle. For my workbench, which I did a video on it many years ago. I should say many years ago, but quite a few years back anyways. I called it the Colossal 1200. And I could have built a lot smaller power supply, but I had this really nice looking cabinet, server cabinet. And it just so happens it fit underneath the workbench, all that good stuff. And it had that nice, pretty glass face. So, I wanted to build myself 1,000 amp, and it's like, yeah, let's go 1,200. That'll be a plenty for, whatever I've got going on the workbench. So, I know some guys build even bigger ones, and I've built bigger ones for people too. But, for here in the shop, 1,200 amps is, plenty for what I need. If I do need to be, upgraded or more power than what I've got available to me, I've got the room to expand it. So that's the other beautiful thing about it. Without too much trouble anyways. I went a completely different direction than what I could have with it. I could have taken and built it up to 3,000 amp, but it's like it was a waste of money to do something that big. Generally I don't build anything bigger than a 16 transistor amplifier. So, 500-600 amps is actually plenty. The sounding Chevette. I'm surprised you had an alternator that would hold up. So, have you seen my 1,200 amp power supply? I think it's Brad. Oh yeah, you have. Yeah, you've been over here. Had to think for a minute. At least I think I know who you are. Let's just put it that way. These all started, and then we'll flip it over, tighten those up the rest of the way. Let's see. What I want, I just got to figure out where I put it. Everything's kind of a mess over here at the moment. There it is. kind of just to help hold everything in place long enough to get everything situated here. There we go. It's already locked into place. Loctite's already hardened. It's making it a little difficult. Sure I didn't. There we go. Well, hello again, Dallas. Good evening, Mr. Grid. Glad you could join us. All right. Tighten up our safety screws here. I don't normally get that far off, but that's probably 3 inches of copper wire. I hate to lose that much on each string, because that's another foot I could have saved. Especially as expensive as the wire is getting nowadays. Okay. Just trying to get an idea how much and where I've got to put the excess so I can keep everything the same. Trade me some, wire for some diesel. Yeah, that's almost not a joke. Yeah, that's sad, but that is really not a joke anymore. Jeez, Pete's. I've got a couple of small scrap copper boxes, one of which is full. The other one, it's getting pretty close. All right, so that's for 5/16. I need to get one for a 3/8. Let me just. And one off. Yes, AI, I am discussing the cost of copper while working on the bench. I know he's probably not going to see this, but I am going to give my brother a shout out over at Rude Dog Leather. For those of you guys that watch the fractal wood burning machine, David over at Rude Dog does some phenomenal leather work. He doesn't have a YouTube channel or TikTok or anything like that. He stays pretty low key. Eventually I'd say I'll get him talked into it. He is very old school at this stage. So yeah, he just does word of mouth. But he is out in Colorado. And right to the fingertip. Not really, but I have had that happen before. Well, hello, Mr. Carlock. I see you're still popped in there. Good evening time, sir. I'll give you a shout out, especially since he makes some pretty killer fan covers for a lot of the builders out there, including myself. I do have to say thank you again for the last order that you sent me. I wish there was a way I could incorporate one of those into this one. Unfortunately, there's not really any way to do that on this particular setup. Not and keep everything looking kind of original, at least the physical dimension, size, the shape of it, the overall form. So when he gets to chooching on this one, the internal fans are going to kick on and take care of what he needs. All right. This will be an interesting deal because I have got to figure out how to get these cables to roll. Good evening time, Electrical Life. Thank you for popping into our channel. Good old-fashioned world of power on the DC side, that is. I'm just hoping that I'm going to be able to run this. I know I'll be able to test it. I don't know if I'll be able to test it to its fullest power limits, because the connector that I've got is actually on a 20 amp circuit. So as long as I don't stay on it continuous, I should be able to at least burp it on the 20 amp circuit and confirm the output power and everything. I'm just sitting there thinking about that. The other circuit I've got is a little bit bigger. And I've got one that's hooked directly into the service panel behind me, where I've got a big old fat extension cord, but that's for testing 1,000 plus amp power supplies on too. I'm not sure how many people I've actually got watching on TikTok. I can tell on YouTube, but all right. Just trying to think how I had that laid up because it'll make it easier. Trying to get all these cables together. So has everybody had a pretty good weekend? Anybody go mushroom hunting, fishing? DX has been in the crapper last. Yeah, it has here too. Sadly, I haven't even heard any of my locals on the radio. Ah. There we go. Yeah, that's a big thing around here too, Mr. Carlock, is crappie and mushrooms. We've got a really good lake called Lake Monroe. If you like to do crappie fishing, that is an awesome spot. And you can almost see John Cougar Mellencamp's residence off of the lake. He lives out there by it. Barely have enough water to fish around there. Come on. Next thing you know, you're going to be telling me that, you know, you live in Antarctica or something. Normally I do this with the vise actually mounted, but I don't really have the options here. So. I'm actually surprised none of my kids have been in on either one of the feeds. Oftentimes they'll get in there and give their old dad a shout out. Dixie County, Florida. And one of these days, Gary, I'm still planning on coming and visiting you. I just don't know when. You know, this year's been all booked up. I am heading out next month to Colorado, and we'll horse around with my brother. We're gonna, you know, play around with the fractal burning machine and get that, get that tuned in for him. That way he can kind of see what it's gonna do. Yep, I'm good. I'm doing 2 feeds. So, yep. Jeez, please. It's getting late, guys. With the exception of stopping for lunch, I have been out here working on this project for 12 hours, counting lunch. So, we're gonna finish up the main cable here, and then we're gonna take a break. Okay, I can do that, Gary. I don't remember your last name, but that's okay, because I think I've got you. I think I remember how I've got you saved in there. So as long as I can look up your first name, we're good to go on that. Yeah. Like I said, I knew if I seen it, I would remember it. But all right, guys, I'll tell you what. I know I've got to wait on this to cool down before I can put the last of the heat and shrink on, and then we're going to try to figure out how to roll these cables up so that they're not quite so long, and we'll get these in place. Get this mounted up here on our main power here. I've still got to cut my wires yet for the power shunt and stuff, and get the negative wires dropped in and hooked up. So I mean, I left myself a little extra room so that I can pull down, put the nut on, and then I have to bolt the shunt back into the bottom of this. So you can see it on both cameras. So we've got to get that in, get that installed yet as well. But anyhow, I am going to take a short break, and we'll be back out here. I'll probably come out here early in the morning. I don't know if we're going to do a live feed then or not, but like I said, I definitely want to get in here and spend some time with you guys, because it has been a while. We've been on this feed for a little over 2 hours, about 2 hours and 18 minutes, according to the timer. So everybody, I appreciate it on both platforms that you're watching from, whether you're on TikTok or here on YouTube. I greatly appreciate it, guys. Take care. Have a great evening, and we will catch you on the next feed. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Have a great evening, guys.